go to my sister's daughter's birthday, and my sister ridicules me in front of my relatives for having cats instead of kids. Humiliated, I confront my family with an emotional speech about my sacrifices and rebuild my life, finding support from strangers online. I park the car and pause, heart thudding against my ribs. My name is Emma Hartley. I'm 29 and I live in Cleveland, Ohio, though right now I feel like an outsider in my own family's backyard. The sun is bright, but the warmth can't touch the tight knot in my chest. I step onto the grass of my sister Rachel's front yard, where families mill about under strings of pastel balloons swaying against a clear spring sky. Smell of grilled burgers mixes with the sweetness of vanilla cake, and laughter tugs at my nerves. I step closer and notice the patio table stacked with framed family photos. Rachel on her wedding day, Rachel and her husband holding newborn Lucy, every milestone neatly documented. I'm in none of these pictures. My life, my career, my cats, my quiet apartment downtown has never seemed to earn a single frame. My chest clenches. I swallow hard and shove that familiar ache aside. "Emma!" Rachel calls, a forced bright tone stretching her voice. She's in a floral dress, arms already full of party favors. She doesn't hug me, never does, but she offers a clipped nod and an infuriatingly polite smile. I force one back, walking past clusters of relatives who glance my way with polite nods. "Happy birthday, Luce," I say as I spot my niece by the blow-up Princess Castle, tiny blonde curls bouncing. She's clutching a pink plastic tiara, eyes fixed on a gaggle of toddlers. She looks up, sees me, and dashes forward, arms open. I crouch and scoop her into a hug, but even in her innocent warmth, I feel the prick of obligation, like I've stepped into a play where my role is to stand on the sidelines and pretend everything's okay. "Hey, pumpkin," I whisper, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. She giggles and points at a chocolate frosting smear on my cheek. I wipe it off, smile genuine for a moment. Looks like everything I've never had. A 5-year-old with wide eyes, a house filled with noise, parents who brag about her down to the socks she wears. I shift on my heels, feeling small. Behind me, I catch Rachel surveying the yard, friends, cousins, her husband flipping burgers at a portable grill. Her lips tighten as she notices me standing too close to Rachel's husband. She hands me a paper plate piled with burgers and potato salad without a word. I take it, nodding in thanks, but I know she's measuring me, judging the single, childless aunt whose only companions are 2 tabby cats back home. Lucy tugs at my sleeve. "Cake?" she asks, voice hopeful. "Yeah, let's go find a seat," I say, and as I lead her toward a cluster of mismatched lawn chairs, I glance back at Rachel. Her eyes flick to my empty plate, to the space between us where I don't belong. She offers what should be comfort, a curt nod, but it lands like a cold slap against my ribcage. I press a hand to my chest, both from the sting and from the fear that this day will be harder than I thought. I set Lucy on a chair and catch my reflection in a patio glass sliding door, forced grin, shaky shoulders. I inhale, steadying myself, and step forward. But I feel the weight of every glare and every unspoken expectation as I force a smile and greet my niece again. Rachel's nod is still there, icy, unwavering, reminding me that today is not about me, and I wonder if I'll ever belong in any of these pictures. I hover near the doorway, clutching a napkin to my chest as Rachel rips open brightly wrapped packages in the living room. The chatter and laughter swirl around me. Cousins coo over Lucy's stuffed unicorn, aunts compare cake recipes, uncles joke about sports scores, but I'm pinned to the sidelines, part of the scenery rather than the celebration. The living room feels smaller inside than the squash of relatives in the yard, all eyes on Rachel and the birthday girl. I press my back against the wall, willing my shoulders to relax while my mind drifts back to that cramped kitchen when I was 16, watching Rachel graduate college in a pristine gown, every relative swiveling to admire her brilliance. I had clapped too, but all I felt was the echo of their praise bouncing off my own quiet ambitions. Rachel sets Lucy's presents on the coffee table, boxes of doll clothes, art supplies, a tiny tea set. I shrink farther into the doorway, remembering how she'd once sneered at my cats, calling them pretend children, and telling me I'd never know real responsibility. My chest burns with the sting. I had been proud then of my first big promotion, of the 2 grumpy tabbies curled on my apartment couch, proud that I'd built my life from scratch. But to Rachel, milestones meant an engagement ring and a nursery-painted pastel. The memory tastes sour, and I blink rapidly to keep tears at bay. One brushes past me, a cousin I barely know, handing me a plate of half-unwrapped sandwiches. I nod, mutter a thanks, and set the plate on a side table. No one asks which cat I brought for show and tell, because they know better than to think I'd dare intrude on Rachel's spotlight. My phone buzzes in my pocket, and I slip it out, thumb hovering over the messaging app. My friend Jenna replies with a string of supportive emojis and the words, "You're not alone." I tap a shaky finger on "I need this," then tuck the phone back in my pocket before anyone sees. Rachel coos at Lucy, lifting a pastel blue bow to her hair. Their laughter fills the room, and I fold my arms as unwrapping concludes. The relatives gather closer, their faces warm with familial pride. A distant corner of me wants to join them, to smile and clap for Lucy like everyone else, but I feel like a ghost, wandering a scene I don't inhabit. A flash of memory. Rachel at my graduation, hardly glancing up as I walked across the stage. She called it an underwhelming career choice. Didn't bother to visit my apartment to meet my cats. Instead, she'd hosted a brunch to congratulate her own milestones, leaving me as the understudy in my own life. I force a breath and step forward as Rachel folds a gift bag, eyes flicking past me to watch Lucy unwrap a hand-painted teacup. I smile as congratulatory voices hush to let Lucy speak her thank yous, but inside my heart is a tight drumbeat of resentment and hurt. My phone vibrates again. I pull it out under the table and see a new message from Jenna. "You got this. Keep breathing." My thumb hovers over the text box, uncertain whether to type back or keep playing the part of the perfect sister. I glance at Rachel's profile, her posture straight, her smile unblemished, and I realize that, for the first time, I might not let her dismiss me so easily. I tuck the phone away, lean against the doorway, and wait for the moment I can slip outside and breathe fresh air. My pulse races. Something inside me is shifting. If I stay much longer, I know I'll have to make a choice. I step into the backyard again, and the first thing I notice is the chaos of children darting between folding chairs, shrieking as they chase one another around the lawn. My niece Lucy clutches her half-eaten cupcake, icing smeared across her chin, and my chest tightens. I haven't spoken a word since leaving the living room, and now, sudden tremor of dread washes over me, like stepping onto a stage I've forgotten my lines for. Rachel stands near the picnic table, still holding Lucy's hand, her posture rigid as she scans the yard. The air hums with polite conversation. A pair of aunties compare gardening tips while sipping lemonade. Uncles discuss traffic on the interstate. I slip past them, barefoot on the cool grass, and make a beeline for a plastic lawn chair near the backyard fence. The sun is warm on my shoulders, but something in me chills. "Emma, come here," Rachel calls out, her voice lilting like she's offering a gift. I turn, and her lips are stretched into a thin smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Lucy tugs on Rachel's dress, and Rachel kneels so her face is level with hers, then stands and holds a paper plate with a square of cake out toward me. I step forward slowly, panic fluttering in my chest. "Here," she says, and her tone is so matter-of-fact it almost sounds natural. I take the plate, the frosting crumbling under my trembling fingers. I force a nod. It's then that she lets slip, loud enough for a half-dozen people nearby to hear, "Don't eat too much, Emma. You wouldn't want to get crumbs on your cat bed." Laughter follows, small, polite chuckles that sound more like pecks of pity than genuine amusement. My cheeks heat, and I clench the plate until it dents. My mind jerks back to every time she's mocked my cats. "Stop playing house with animals, and your cats don't need college tuition." But this feels like a public declaration of my supposed inadequacy. I swallow, wanting to shrink, vanish into the bright blue sky above. Children sprint past me in a blur, their laughter ringing like mocking bells. I tuck a loose strand of hair behind my ear before crouching beside Lucy. The grass tickles at my knees. I force a smile for her sake and help her blow out the smoldering candles on her second slice of cake. Flame extinguishes in a small puff of smoke, and I catch a glimpse of Rachel hovering nearby, arms crossed, chin tilted upward, lips curling into a triumphant smirk. Lucy's tiny face lights up in a victorious grin, oblivious to the tension rippling through the adults. I bite my lip and offer her a congratulatory good job, but my eyes flick to Rachel's. She glances away, brushing a stray curl from her face, satisfied that her point landed. I taste frosting on my lips, too sweet, too tainted, and I feel tears prickle behind my eyes. Some of the guests have turned to watch, their expressions flickering between confusion and forced politeness. I sense their attention, the weight of their silent judgment, and my heartbeat thunder thumps in my ears. Lucy tugs on my sleeve again, but I barely register it, because I can feel the sting of every eye in my direction. I press a hand to my chest, steadying a sudden rush of anger and humiliation that threatens to swallow me whole. I straighten up, glancing past Rachel's smug figure toward the wooden fence at the edge of the yard, where sunlight filters through budding oak leaves. I want nothing more than to slip away into that quiet shade, let the world forget I ever existed here. But I can't, not yet, not until I decide what comes next. I hear the tension tighten like a noose as Rachel steps forward, voice carrying over the backyard chatter. Maybe Emma should buy miniature scratching posts and host tea parties for her cats instead of coming here. The words hang in the air, heavy and deliberate. A ripple runs through the guests. Some cover mouths to stifle giggles, others exchange uneasy glances. My stomach drops, throat constricts, and for a moment I'm frozen, plate of cake forgotten in my hand. The laughter crashes over me like cold waves. I want to sink into the grass, disappear. I feel eyes sliding off me in awkward avoidance. No one wants to be the next target. The sound of kids playing fades, replaced by the echo of my embarrassment. My cats, My two quiet companions who trust me unconditionally are suddenly the punchline of this family gathering. The insult isn't new. I've heard variations since I moved out at 21. But now, in front of so many married cousins, aunts with cribs waiting in spare bedrooms, and uncles with proud grins, now it stings like acid. I stare down at Lucy's half-finished cupcake, fingers trembling as I press it into my palm, frosting squishing between my fingers. Music from her birthday playlist hovers in the background, cheerful notes of happy birthday looping, but it sounds distant, like a cruel soundtrack to my humiliation. I want to blink to clear the haze, but tears blur my vision. I grip the paper plate so tightly it bends, frosting smearing on my palm. An aunt approaches, voice low and rushed. "Emma, But I cut her off with a small shake of my head. I want to say it's fine, but the betrayal throbs too deep. I can't speak. Another cousin shifts uncomfortably, eyes flicking between Rachel's triumphant grin and me, unsure if they should intervene. I feel their discomfort sting almost as much as the laughter. My nails dig into my palm. I force myself to breathe. Inhale, exhale, grounding myself against the jolting pulse at my temple. Lucy reaches up on tiptoe to hand me her toy princess wand, eyes questioning. I kneel beside her, bringing my face close to hers, wanting to protect her from this ugliness, though I know she's too young to understand. My voice comes out as a whisper. "Nice wand." She beams, unaware of the storm around us. Rachel hovers behind me, arms crossed, chin lifted as if she's declared a grand pronouncement. Her delight in my suffering is blatant, and something inside me snaps. Want to flee, run past the fence into the quiet of the street, but I feel every blistering glance of the guests, every tickle of curious stares. I force myself upright, gaze flicking from Rachel to the circling relatives. My heart races, but beneath the shame, a simmering ember lights. I know this moment will shape me. Either I crumble or I find a way to stand. The music keeps playing, a cruel echo that I can't escape. I swallow against the lump in my throat, hand still clutching the frosting-smeared plate, and I realize something. I can't let this be the last chapter. Not in my chest tightens, but I refuse to let it consume me. I step back from Rachel, breath coming in shallow bursts, and meet the eyes of those who laughed. If I speak now, everything changes. My legs shake, but I straighten my shoulders, gripping the plate as though it can't betray me again. My mind races as I decide what happens next, knowing there's no going back. I stumble backward and press myself against the fence, heart hammering so loud I'm sure everyone can hear it. My hand finds my chest, holding it as if I could stop the pain if I just squeezed harder. The laughter drifts behind me, a cruel wind I can't outrun. I see faces turn as I step off the lawn, brow furrowed with pity or awkwardness. No one meets my eyes. I force my legs to carry me farther, until I'm at the fringe of the yard where the grass meets cracked concrete, hands shaking so badly I can't steady my breathing. A woman I recognize as Aunt Marcy approaches, her hand hovering between me and the fence. "Emma, I'm so sorry," she says, voice low and uneven. Her eyes flick toward my sister, but she keeps her gaze on me. I shake my head, words caught in my throat, and she steps back, understanding that I won't be comforted. Another cousin follows, offering a small smile that fails at warmth. "Let me know if you need anything," she murmurs. I manage a brief nod, and she too retreats without another word. Rachel stands a few feet away, arms crossed, watching. A triumphant grin has faded just enough that I catch a flicker of something like guilt, before it's replaced by cold indifference. She's silent, content to let everyone else make the first move. I press my hand harder against my chest, willing the knot in my throat to loosen so I can breathe normally again. My mind races, replaying her words. Miniature scratching posts swirling back like a broken record. I want to scream at her, tell her how cruel she's been, how she's shredded my self-esteem, the way a cat claws at fabric. All I can feel is raw hurt, a bruised ache under my ribs. I close my eyes, leaning my forehead against the rough wood of the fence. The roughness scratches my skin, but it's grounding, reminding me I'm still here, solid, breathing, real. My phone is heavy in my pocket. I slide a hand inside, fingertips brushing the smooth glass screen. I think of Jenna's messages, of her unwavering support an ocean away. A part of me wants to call her, to hear a friendly voice. I'm not sure I can form the words. A distant shout catches my attention, children squealing as they scramble over the footbridge in the next yard. The joy feels like salt on my open wound. My cats are curled up at home right now, purring like they know nothing of the world's cruelties. I can almost feel their soft fur beneath my fingertips, my only solace. I lean back, pressing my weight into the fence. I consider pulling out my phone and hitting record, capturing Rachel's cruelty, for everyone to see online. Part of me craves proof, evidence that I wasn't imagining her barbs. But another part wonders if sharing footage of my humiliation would only deepen the sting. My gaze flicks across the yard, guests still milling near the picnic table. Rachel's posture hasn't changed. She hasn't followed me here, hasn't tried to stop me. The silence between us hangs heavy as wet laundry. I feel moisture gather behind my eyelids and taste the beginnings of tears on my tongue. I wipe my cheek, too stubborn to let them fall. My heart pounds and my vision tunnels. I know I can't stay here forever, watching, waiting, bleeding inside. But leaving means admitting defeat, letting her words win. A low growl rises in my throat, anger tangled with shame. I press a finger against the screen of my phone, thumb hovering above the record button, then pull it away. My breath catches, and I close my fist around my phone. The world tilts for a moment, and I feel a surge of something I haven't felt all day. Resolve. I can't stay here. I also can't let her win. As I take a shaky step toward the back gate, I know the choice I make next will change everything. My legs feel unsteady as I step onto the rough gravel path just beyond the gate, but I force myself to stop and turn back toward the yard. The late afternoon sun casts long shadows across the grass, as if marking the moment before everything changes. My hand trembles at my side, but my voice is already forming, determined and raw. "Everyone, could I have your attention, please?" The laughter around the picnic table dies, replaced by curious murmurs. I step back onto the lawn, each footfall echoing like a heartbeat in my ears. Faces turn toward me, some sympathetic, some confused, others still uncertain. My pounding chest echoes in my skull, but I raise my chin and speak louder, voice trembling on the edges but steadying with every word. I'm tired of feeling like a joke in front of my own family. Silence falls. My throat burns as I continue. Maybe you think I chose the easy path, that instead of going to college or building a career, I just ran off to play house with cats. I feel a sting beneath my ribs as their eyes flicker. But I didn't choose easy. I worked 3 jobs to pay tuition, spent nights studying until dawn, then moved to this city with nothing but a suitcase and 2 cats I adopted from a shelter. My chest rises and falls as I force myself to meet their gaze, one person at a time. I sacrificed a lot so I could afford my own apartment, so I could build a life that doesn't revolve around weddings and diaper changes if that isn't for me. A gentle murmur ripples through the guests. Some nod, some look away. I swallow against the lump in my throat, each word burning my tongue. I know some of you think I'm irresponsible, that I'll end up alone. But my cats bring me comfort on nights when the city streets are dark, and I come home from a job I love knowing they'll be there. That's not playing house. It's creating a home I'm proud of. My gaze lands on Rachel, whose arms are crossed, her pretty face reddening with anger. "She's right," my cousin Marcy says softly from the edge of the crowd. "I've seen Emma work harder than anyone I know." A ripple of agreement follows, faces soften, murmurs of support rising. I inhale, emboldened. I turn my focus back to Rachel. "You once told me I'd never understand real responsibility because I chose cats over kids. I am responsible. I pay my rent on time, I feed my cats, I volunteer at the animal shelter. My happiness doesn't look like yours, but it's no less valid." My voice catches, but I hold steady. "You can laugh, but you can never take away my dignity." A hush settles as I finish, my heart pounding so loudly I half expect everyone to hear it. Some relatives exchange guilty glances, cheeks reddening with embarrassment. Lucy watches at my side, wide-eyed, as I brush a finger through her hair. She doesn't understand every word, but she feels the shift, a change in the air around us. Rachel's face is a mask of fury and shame, lips pressed into a thin line. I sense the fight behind her eyes, the realization that this sister she's tried to belittle stands tall, unbroken. My chest feels lighter, as if I've exhaled years of pain in a single defiant breath. The backyard feels different now, brighter, electric with possibility. Wind rustles the edge of the tablecloth where my cake sits half-eaten. I swallow against the lump in my throat, eyes flicking back to Rachel's trembling lips. I know this moment is only the beginning of truth, of distance, or maybe of understanding. The crowd's stunned silence hangs like a promise. I press a hand to my heart, let the hush wash over me, and realize I've reclaimed myself. Now they have to decide what to do with their shame. And Rachel, standing there with her chin high and her eyes blazing, is the one who will feel the consequences. Air hung heavy, as if held in waiting, the chatter of celebration replaced by a hush so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. I stood beside Lucy, her tiny hand curled in mine, and felt the weight of every pair of eyes upon us. My triumphant speech felt distant now, a bold echo fading into stunned silence. Lucy tugged at my sleeve, her small brow creased with concern. "Aunt Emma, are you okay?" she whispered. I knelt to her level, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "I'm okay, sweetheart," I said, forcing a gentle smile despite the tremor in my chest. "You did great today." She nodded, satisfied, then scampered over to Rachel to retrieve her doll. I watched as my sister's face contorted, her mouth set in a tight line, and then she spun on her heel, ushering Lucy toward the sliding glass door. Rachel's strides were quick, her white dress swaying as she moved. No parting glance, no flicker of regret, just the decisive click of the door behind her. Fragile calm shattered as the screen slid shut, isolating them from the stunned onlookers. In that instant, I knew the divide running between us would not soon heal. Around me, relatives shifted awkwardly, glances bowling between their pity and admiration. Aunt Marcy approached, eyes misty, her hand resting briefly on my shoulder. "Emma," she said, voice soft, "that was brave." Cousin Jane lingered too, offering a timid nod of respect. Others hovered at a distance, uncertain if they should speak. My heart thrummed with a strange mixture of liberation and lingering hurt. It was as if I'd torn down a barrier, but in doing so, had exposed raw nerves I couldn't yet soothe. I stepped toward the porch, each footfall a testament to the new determination bubbling within me. As I climbed the few steps, I felt eyes following, silent counsel deciding whether to greet me or leave me to my own devices. I reached the top and paused. Looking back through the glass, Rachel knelt beside Lucy on the living room floor. The toddler's laughter, muffled by the glass, sounded fragile, a bittersweet reminder that innocence remains if we protect it. Rachel's shoulders shook, maybe with anger, maybe with sorrow. I couldn't tell. I saw her toss her head and stand, brushing stray curls from her face. She didn't meet my gaze. She wouldn't allow herself that confrontation. And despite the victory of my stand, a tight knot of regret twisted inside me. It shattered more than the party's veneer of harmony. I'd shattered something between us that might never be pieced back together. I turned away from the window and sank onto the wooden porch floor, legs folded beneath me. The late afternoon sun warmed my shoulders, and a breeze drifted through the yard, ruffling the edges of my hair. 2 cats? They wouldn't be here now, curled in a sunbeam on my living room windowsill, purring as though they understood nothing had changed. I felt the familiar ache for their soft presence, their silent comfort. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I retrieved it, thumb hovering over Jenna's name. A single thought flared, I did it. I faced them and myself. I typed, I did it. It felt terrifying, but I can breathe now, and hit send without hesitation. The message floated into the ether, carrying my triumph to someone who'd believed in me when I almost didn't believe in myself. For a moment, I just sat there, eyes closed, breathing in the warmth of my own resolve. The porch felt solid beneath me, a threshold between what was and what would be. I knew the toll my words would take on family ties, but I also knew one thing. No future greeting at Rachel's door would ever scare me again. The first real morning of silence hits differently, like waking from a nightmare only to remember you're wide awake. I sit on the edge of my worn sofa in my small Cleveland apartment, 2 cats curled at my feet, their soft purrs a balm to the bruised space in my chest. The sun filters through half-closed blinds, dust motes dancing in the light. Yesterday, I posted the video of my speech to a Reddit community, r/confessions, and today I'm scrolling through comments, each one a tiny lifeline. You're an inspiration. Good for you, standing up. I needed to hear this. Some are ruthless. She deserved it. Cats aren't people, but most are kind, lending strangers support where my family refused it. My phone buzzes with notifications, upvotes, replies to my post, messages from friends I barely see these days. I trace one comment where someone writes, "Thank you for showing me it's okay to be different." My chest tightens, and I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. I never expected this. I thought I'd be embarrassed forever. But instead, I feel a cautious spark of pride. I glance down at Moby and Luna, my 2 tabby cats, dozing together like they own the world. They're the reason I stood up. They don't ask for more than food, warmth, and the occasional chin scratch, yet they've given me more courage than my own blood ever did. I open a blank document to start my promised Reddit post, something longer, deeper, unfiltered. Fingers hover above the keys. I want to share everything, the tight knot in my throat as Rachel's words landed. Shock of seeing relatives laugh, the way Lucy looked at me as if she sensed my pain. I type, I never thought I'd be my own hero, but yesterday. Then stop. Each word feels heavy, like I'm carving into old scars. But I press on, telling my story as honestly as I can. I write about sleepless nights studying, working 3 jobs, the day I adopted Moby from the shelter, Luna a week later, about building a home from nothing. I talk about how it feels to hear your sister mock the one place you truly belong. At the time I finish, my eyes sting, but I also feel lighter than I have in years. I glance at the clock, it's afternoon already. I lean back in my chair, running a hand through my hair. Rachel's calls go to voicemail. I know she's tried, but I can't answer. Not yet. The thought of speaking to her feels like stepping back into that yard under those balloons, that laughter. I no longer feel small, but I'm not ready to let her close again. Distance might be the only way to protect what remains of my heart. A gentle meow breaks my reverie. Moby wants dinner. I stand, stretch, and scoop both cats into my arms before I head to the kitchen. Their purrs rumble against my chest, and I let myself sink into the warmth. I fill their bowls and watch them eat as a smile, slow but genuine, spreads across my face. I remember something I've rarely felt, quiet peace. My phone buzzes again, another Reddit notification. Someone I don't know has gifted me their Reddit gold. I stare at the screen a moment before replying. Thank you. I set the phone down and head back to the living room, cats trailing behind me. I curl into the sofa, their fur soft under my fingertips. For the first time, I believe I'm exactly where I need to be. And tomorrow, I'll wake up and write more because this story, my story, deserves to be heard.